Hey Collective, happy Labor Day. That's the Monday holiday that we are celebrating in the States right now. And that is actually the topic of our reading. So I wanted to use that as a theme here. So I've got a few cards already picked out for our spread. I've got the Hierophant in reverse, the Six of Pentacles in reverse, and the Five of Pentacles in reverse. So I kind of want to get into maybe what might be affecting you on a macro level in these different areas, and talk a little bit about why is Labor Day a holiday? Like, why is it important? It's one of those many holidays that come around every year and people just kind of have barbecues, and I feel like forget what it's all about. So we'll start getting the first card here for the Hierophant. Yes, get it. And I think this is a very fitting image. This is the Everyday Witch Tarot, and we've got her doing leading yoga here on the card. And that's very reminiscent of how employers handle serious issues in the workplace, just kind of making light of it. And like, have you tried managing your socioeconomic issues by doing yoga, by doing deep breathing? And yes, actually I have, and turns out it's not actually fixing anything. So we'll get this first card here. And so Labor Day, this came about from the labor movement in, at least started in the United States. I don't know if that spread across to other countries. Yes, kitten, you don't have to work. What are you talking about? But the reason it's important to me is I am a card carrying union member. And this is the second industry that I've been a member of a union. And they're not perfect. As with any large organization, it has its issues. And they're so important to employees having a collective voice in the workplace. And it baffles me when people debate against unions, like, feel the way you want to feel. But really you're arguing for exploitation. But we've got the, yeah, Ten of Swords. And in the reverse. So you could be coming up from rock bottom, recovering from maybe a difficult work situation, maybe something that was handled lightly, incorrectly. There's so many situations in the workplace that the burden is completely put on the individual to hold the employer's feet to the fire, to like do the right thing and to prove something wrong is even happening. And just the absolute burden that is put on the person who has the least amount of resources, who is receiving the most harm, because this is an individual against an organization. Yeah, you don't have to worry about that. Let's get another card here. Why do you need attention right when I start recording? Is it because I'm talking? Here we go. Ten of Wands. Okay, that's a lot of burden here under the Hierophant. But this is a burden that's going to be put down. So maybe some progress being made in your workplace, maybe in systemic issues. I had had something else on my mind and it slipped away. Maybe it'll come back. Get a third card here. Yeah, so difficulties in the workplace. And, I've been working for a little bit now in various industries. And it all feels like just the same hamster wheel. And, the point I was going to get at was when I say employers, like I really want to clarify and drive home the point that these are people that could and maybe are, could be and maybe are your neighbors. They are people who were once where you are on that rung of the ladder. And it's like as soon as they achieve success, they're in it for themselves. And we spend a lot of time focusing on like the upper layers of the pyramid, like the 1% and whatnot. We need to look at the next layer up from us, those like middle management layers that are so bloated in many organizational charts. But they're the ones that are standing on our shoulders for their success and then fail to trickle down the feast to us when it comes. Like I've always been stuck in a bracket, I guess, where I can never just get ahead. Like the ability to build up a savings account or a nest egg or something like that, that has always just been out of reach. And when you try to talk to employers, people in management, whatever, about solutions like, hey, you're not paying me enough to live in the city that you hired me in, like, we need to talk. It's just they put their hands in the air like, oh, nothing I can do, we're not responsible for you being able to pay your bills. Like, actually you are. This is my full-time job. Like, it's so ridiculous to me that so much is expected of employees in terms of like more productivity, numbers, and then we're like, okay, fork over the additional compensation for what you're asking, and they're like, no. And we are stuck not being able to do anything about it because we have bills to pay that are often past due. And it just, I don't know, I'm so blown away by this like Twilight Zone separation between the workers and the management of like, sorry, nothing we can do. Maybe you need to figure it out and do the like, you're the manager thing. So we've got Ace of Cups and Eight of Swords in reverse. So that Eight of Swords makes sense, like seeing things for what they are, taking the blindfold off. Now the Eight of Cups, that could be self-love, self-worth, through seeing the burdens for what they are, for what's been put on you by an employer, an organization that has the ability to do better. They just aren't. It's a bit of a bittersweet way to find that self-love, to find the self-worth, the self-respect, to put your foot down and go, hey, this is BS. Like, every year we talk on my like performance review of what's expected of me. What about you? Like, what are you doing for me? This is supposed to be like gainful employment. And I don't know, that's really a big reason why I believe so much in unions, because it gives you at least a bit more staying power in being able to put your foot down, especially in like at will states and things like that. It makes it harder to get rid of you. And that's important in a power dynamic when you're on the wrong side of the curve. But let's see. And people talk smack about unions and whatnot, but they're the reason we have, 5-day work week, child labor laws, and various different protections and things like that. Often unions will be the ones who argue for better wages, while your employer, the person who is giving you a performance review, is arguing against giving you more money. Like, just the audacity, the gall of that. And of course, check your local, state, federal bylaws and all that. But talking about unionizing and so forth is federally protected. And they can't tell you to not talk about it. So we've got appreciation and enthusiasm. Yeah, so I'm going to take that as take the time to understand what protections you currently have, because this is about progress, not perfection. And look around in your area for what unions might apply to your industry. Even if there isn't one in your organization, there might be one in your industry that can help you get started, that might be able to roll in your organization. I don't know. I've never worked for a union, so I'm not sure how that gets set up. But this is the moon in Leo and the sun in Sagittarius. So the moon in Leo may be taking a little bit of a calmer approach, like cooling off the fire of that Leo archetype, that leader archetype, but maintaining the enthusiasm of the sage, of the teacher, that it can be scary to assert your rights, especially against someone who has power over you. So you have to take everything with a grain of salt, consider your situation and all that. But I think it's worth it, because if we don't press against the grain, things are just going to remain the same. So you've got the Six of Pentacles here in reverse, and this is, I would say, like unfair practices, like bad pay practices, making excuses for not giving out raises that year or something like that. Meanwhile, C-suites or whatnot, they get raises. Ma'am, I hear you. You already had salmon. Yes. So we'll get the first card here for the Six of Pentacles. And that could also be selfishness. And that's another thing that has always blown my mind. When managers and whomever, they don't go to bat for you for advancement, for pay, whatnot, and just kind of roll over and like, but the stakeholder said no. Lost my train of thought there. Feeling pretty foggy during this reading. Maybe it'll come back. But we've got the Seven of Pentacles in reverse. So out of patience, that might be how you're feeling with some sort of practice in the workplace. Man, I wish I could remember what I was going to say. I think it was important. Whatever. But impatience with just the nonsense excuses. Oh, that's what I was going to say. Like when management or so forth doesn't go to bat for you for pay, whatnot. Uh, they don't make any additional money off of that. Like, that's what I've never understood. Like, when people, managers, HR, or whatever, is stingy with money, they don't make more. Like, they don't benefit from that. It just, to me, comes across like bootlicking, honestly. Of like, look at me, I'm on your team. Pick me. Like, it's giving pick me vibes. They're not going to pick you. That's just not how things work. You are as expendable as the bottom of the pyramid is. So maybe you're just fed up. The Seven of Pentacles in reverse, with the unfair practices, with the greediness, with the excuses. Because it's infuriated me to no end of how many employers I've worked at that it's like year over year, like we're making record numbers, you guys are working so hard, and we're like, cool, where's our compensation? They're like, what? What are you talking about? It's so funny. It's not, actually. Oh, that did a little loop-de-loop. Oh, an Eight of Pentacles. So progress. So this is the, I'm going to take that as in motion because the little dance that it did. And this is mastery. The artisan. Someone who has completely mastered their craft. So I want to say maybe unfair practices make you feel like you haven't mastered your craft, whatever that is, when really you have. It's just the way they're treating you that is making you feel doubt, is making you feel like you're not ready for advancement. And if you're in any sort of like large organization, you're a number on a spreadsheet. That's the stuff they feed you about, like, oh, you matter like so much to us and whatnot. Like, try to get anything from them. Try to get help from them. We'll see how much you matter. Let's get another card for the Six of Pentacles. And there is so much done to union bust, and some of the best advice that I've gotten over the years that HR is not your friend. HR is there to protect the company, not you. That's why unions are important, because they're actually there to stand up for the employee. Now, they're not employment lawyers or anything like that. And if you're having any sort of discrimination issues or whatnot, then you have to look into different agencies for that, like state and federal. So it can get a little convoluted, but a union representative can guide you that way. And I work from home, but in the before times, there were posters that, like, by federal law, had to be posted in the break room saying, like, what the process is to follow for like hostile work environment, discrimination, and all that. If you work from home, I imagine that's got to be on like your intranet, like your company intranet, where you find your policies and procedures and stuff. That's something that if you email HR, like, I can't find this documentation, they have to send it to you. Now, I'm, again, not a lawyer, but I'm almost positive they must send it to you upon request. And if they don't, like, document it. Here we go. I'm just going to take the bottom one. So we've got the Queen of Cups. Interesting. So I'm taking this as you're letting your emotions out. Like, you're not playing the game anymore. You're not maintaining pretense. And that's interesting. All the ambient noise outside, like, picked up with people and the dogs barking and everything. But it's like Twisted Sister, we're not going to take it anymore, right? Because these companies, they don't run without you, without the worker. And yet there's so many instances of people who cannot do what the worker is doing, making decisions about how what the worker is doing should be done. And it leads to just disastrous results that the worker is left to compensate for, while the C-suite executive who made all these changes bolsters their resume for a couple of years, gets vested in whatever 401k blah 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 program, and then dips. Like, and we're there cleaning up their mess without getting raises, without making the cost of living. And that's why we need unions. This is just a big plug for unions, really. Principle. Yeah, it's a principle to matter. Got a little Pope hat there. Oh, and like Sun and Moon, and previous ones were Sun and Moon too. Interesting. So Jupiter in Sagittarius. But there is a lot of principle in this, and I think this is actually a good segue into the Five of Pentacles, because our employers rely on us while we depend on our employers. There's a really significant difference in that power dynamic there, that they try to blow past when something is asked of them. And something that being a member of a union can do is it can help empower you to, like, have a position to argue from and be like, hey, this doesn't actually match up with my union contract, or like, these are the expectations, you know, these aren't matching up. And any employer that I've been at, as soon as you say, like, I'm gonna get my union rep involved, like, the energy of the conversation changes, which has always been interesting to me, because employers have all the resources in the world. They've got, like, lawyers on speed dial and whatnot. Meanwhile, the employee has to trudge through mud and snow and tar to even figure out how to exercise our rights. And, like, why are you so scared? You know, if you have all the power, like, why do you jump on it and try to squash it so fast? The dissent, I guess. And so the next card we have here is the Five of Pentacles. And so this is the outcome for employees. Like, we've got this nice warm church that these individuals, they're trudging through snow, they've got their cat out there with them, and I don't know how many people are in there, but there's probably room for these three in there. And man, if you are living hand to mouth, paycheck to paycheck, and you have a vet bill come up, oh my God, the stress of that, not only on your budget, but what if you can't get care for your pet right away? And some of those pet insurance, like, they can be helpful, but being able to utilize that insurance is just a joke. So, we'll get the first card here. But that just points back to what I was saying, like, so much burden is put on the individual when an organization has things like a budget for dealing with things. And like the reason the retention budget is lower, like there isn't as much distributed towards raises and things like that, is because the hiring budget is so much higher, like attracting people to like get them ensnared. And a solution to that would be to adjust the budget. Like, they just play dumb and, like, oh, what are we supposed to do? Like, you're supposed to take care of your employees, is what you're supposed to do. And that's what the, that labor movement, way back when. I wrote down the first one. It was September 5th, 1882 was the first Labor Day. So we've been fighting for our rights for a very long time. But we have the Lovers here in reverse. Interesting. So I'm definitely reading this as a choice rather than actual lovers. Maybe some indecision about what to do. Yeah, because you often get put in a rock and a hard place because it takes so much effort for the individual to hold the feet to the fire for their employer to like do the right thing if they're not doing it, that every step in that process is designed like as a deterrent to get you to turn back from holding your employer accountable. And it's so hard to withstand the financial burden, and that's really the big one, but also the stress of just being in like a hostile working environment. And when you get in these situations, often the first piece of advice that just like flies out of people's mouth is, have you thought about quitting? Have you thought about finding a new job? Like, why is that always the first place to go? Like, if we do that, then we just perpetuate the cycle by allowing it to continue. And you have to, of course, if you have dependents and things, everybody's situation is different. You got to do what you got to do, but if you can, dig your heels in. Go up against them if you have that ability to, because it's important. Because if something is happening to you, it's likely happening to other people. And employers get away with so much. How skewed the pay scales are between the people that actually do work and the people that go to meetings. It just boggles the mind. And then employees are looked at as like greedy or taboo or whatnot for bringing up money in an employment situation. Are you kidding me? It just, oh man, that Twilight Zone feeling of like, do we even live in the same world? Which we do. They were once where we were. Three of Cups. Not celebrating anything with the way that we've been getting treated. That's for sure. Like the things that employers tout of, like, we met this goal, we met these arbitrary numbers that we made up, that we decided we had to beat from the previous year. Like, just, it's so absurd. And I don't know, things are so crazy here in the States. There's a lot to think about. This is a fight that we have to keep fighting because it's never going to get better if we don't. I mean, was it the middle class, if that even exists anymore, and then the lower tiers have had stagnant wages for what, 15 years or something like that, and we just keep hearing the same ish, just like over and over and over, like wages are stagnant, rent is skyrocketing, blah 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 blah, and it never improves. It just never improves. It's just this constant hell loop over and over and over while the people up at the top of the pyramid get richer. It's driving me crazy. There is no ethical capitalism. We've got, ooh, another ace. Ace of Swords and the World. That's a lot more positive. Interesting. So, speaking your truth, leading to a completion of a cycle. It could be finding a better job, finding a place where you're more appreciated. Because it's easy to get caught up in the, you know, all places are like this and whatnot. And sometimes it really feels that way because there's so many. And I want to believe that there is better out there. I think for me, it's going to be getting off the 9 to 5 hamster wheel, which is an involved process. It's definitely not something that happens overnight. But I think my happiness lies somewhere in working for myself. It's a process, trying to figure that stuff out, but figuring out what your truth is. And I don't know if there's potential for unions and working for yourself just because the nature of things, collective bargaining. But in the interim, if you have to remain on the hamster wheel, my preference is being a union member. There is, often the concern of union dues is one of the criticisms. And it's a small price to pay for the additional representation, for the additional contract that would need to be negotiated or abided by in terms of like a disciplinary progression. It helps keep people employed while they go up against their employer. And even though there's no emergency fund or things like that for, if you're struggling with the results of the bad treatment while you go up against them, at least you can remain employed, while you go through this and you still have something coming in. Achievement. Sun in Capricorn. So, coming out on the other side of a difficult situation, a difficult employment situation, because that's what we're talking about. And you could take this Ace of Swords and the world as speaking your truth online, like what I'm doing right now. Talking about unions, talking about working conditions that need to improve, things you'd like to see change. Like the 40-hour 5-day a week work week, that's outdated. And there's so many ways that like salaried employees are taken advantage of. I used to think that being a salaried employee was, it came with like flexibility of being salaried and whatnot. And really, what it has become is you are working 40 hours a week just like an hourly employee. And when they need somebody to work overtime, it's you who doesn't get paid overtime. And then you just worked extra hours. And it's the kind of thing that doesn't lead to additional pay. It doesn't lead to advancement. It's just they've figured out how to work the system because you signed that piece of paper that at the end said, and all other duties as assigned. So it's like this legal blank statement of like, you do what we tell you for pretty much the pay that you started with. So things like that, better PTO, mandatory parental leave, sick time, things like that. Better wages often come from union negotiations that even if they don't apply to everybody in the organization, there'll be like an intermingling of the union contract that applies to the broader population of employees. It gets really convoluted. So that's my endorsement for unions. And we've got is this the Witching Hour? Yes, the Witching Hour Oracle. Get one of these. So a little bit of a different read. Gave me an opportunity to get on my soapbox about unions. A good topic for Labor Day. There's a lot of grim history around the labor movement, and things like better wages and advancement opportunities. All of those things contribute so much to mental health, which people are struggling with on a mass scale right now. And it's just, every year, it just seems to get harder and harder and harder, and it's just more and more and more is expected of us. And now we have to compete with things like AI that have absolutely unreal productivity that oftentimes we have to correct. Because, what's that quote I keep seeing? It's like, computers cannot make management decisions because they cannot be held accountable. The spirits, respecting spirit. It's a cool card. So I'm taking this as respecting the person doing the work. I think AI has its place, and it's doing a lot more harm than good right now, especially environmental concerns with those data centers and so forth. And we really have to stop looking at people as numbers on a spreadsheet, and we do it with every topic when we're talking about workers, immigration, the incident that happened at the Catholic school like 2 days into the school year. that we group people into this bucket, that they become this characteristic or this label, and we forget to see the person, the person that's being negatively impacted by this. Because not paying your bills, not being able to pay your bills on time, like having to juggle them, you know, pay this one this month and this one next month and this one can roll a little bit longer and so on and so forth. That's not just a money concern, it's a health concern because of the stress that is being put on you, not just to wonder if you're going to be able to figure it out, but like the mental load of figuring it out and worrying and not feeling supported by the employer, the people that you're dependent on. And it's so frustrating to be just banging your head against the wall saying, I need you to meet my needs as well. And they're like, no, if you don't meet our needs, we fire you. Deal with it. That it's so wrong. And that is why we need unions. You can just use this for a commercial for your local union. Just take the bottom one. Hope NF. That's a really good song. I really like his stuff. The music videos are really cool. Very symbolic. So check out the lyrics. I actually don't know what NF stands for. But a lot to think about. I appreciate if you stuck out for the whole soapbox with me. Got to hear my feelings on unions and employers and employee rights and so forth. But at the end of this, I hope that, if nothing else, your takeaway is to speak up about what it is you believe in, that change that you want to see, express that frustration that's really grinding away at you that needs to be heard. Because you can do it this way with a faceless channel. However that works out for you. But overall, I hope this helps. I hope this resonates, and if it doesn't, I hope the next one does. Thank you so much.